Advanced Studio Classroom is on the air. Sometimes careers in science pay. Hello, listeners. Welcome back to another Advanced Studio Classroom. I'm your host for today. My name is Simon, and you are joining me on June 15th, 2019, as we look at this month's newsworthy clips. Our news article usually contains 3 little lessons, and this is the 3rd lesson of this article. So today we're going to be talking about an article called Breakthrough Prize Awards Scientists $22 million. And star status. So we're actually talking about awards for scientists today. Now, I'm joined in the studio today by 2 panelists, both of whom have won many awards over the years. David Morton, welcome to the studio.
Yes, well, thank you very much. I feel like a movie star with that introduction.
Tell us about one of your awards, David.
Well, when I was in 7th grade, I received first prize for reciting a poem by Edgar Allan Poe called The Raven. Edgar Allan Poe is a famous English poet who he's famous for writing a lot of scary stories.
Yeah.
And poems about death and love.
Yeah.
And I really liked him.
And you recited one of the poems?
Yes, his most famous one, arguably, called The Raven.
And what did you win when you won this prize?
I won the accolades or the praise of my classmates and a blue first-place ribbon that is still on my mother's refrigerator door.
You know, it's interesting. In American culture, they talk about winning a blue ribbon, meaning winning first place, right? Mm-hmm. When I grew up in Canada, the first place one was red, and blue was always second, and then yellow was third. So it's different culture kind of thing. But listeners, if you do hear people talking about a blue ribbon, the idea is that it's first place or it's the best. So David won a blue ribbon as a reward.
You better believe I did.
Wow. And a ribbon, of course, it's just kind of a long, thin strip of cloth, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says number
writing.
1 on it.
Yeah, it had gold writing on it. So.
Yeah. Very nice.
Number 1.
Congratulations, David.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
wonderful.
You, Simon.
Our other panelist in the studio today is Josh. Josh, welcome back, and tell us about one of your awards.
Thank you, Simon. It's always good to be back here on Advanced Radio. I think out of all of the awards that I've won, probably one that was the most important to me was also, as a young boy, I won a trophy for having the fastest car in the Pinewood Derby race.
Oh, tell us what a
nice.
Pinewood Derby is.
So there is, in the organization, the Boy Scouts of America, which I know there are Boy Scouts in many countries, but in Boy Scouts of America, there is a younger version, which they call the Cub Scouts. And so this is for younger boys who eventually will probably also enter into the Boy Scouts of America. But there's a very famous competition, which is called the Pine Box Derby. So these are pieces or blocks of pine wood that are a big square block, and they come with kits that have 4 nails, 4 plastic wheels, and a block of wood. And then you are supposed to carve or alter the shape of wood and make it regulation in weight by adding some weights to the block of wood so that when it's put on a track that is raised in elevation, kind of sloped like a hill, that it is able to run down a track and go down the track faster than any of the other cars that your fellow Cub Scouts have designed. And actually, it's become quite a popular opportunity for dads to show off their understanding of physics. But when I won the first place, it was me and my dad working together.
There you go.
That's
wow.
great.
Now, it's interesting because all 3 of us kind of grew up at a time in North America where everyone wins, right? So you both mentioned...
Not at the Pinewood Derby.
Well, that's right. That's right. You both mentioned
and
things.
not in the speech meet. No, there was but one winner.
That's what I'm saying. You both mentioned things where you were the only one who was the winner. Very often in North America, we do things like your soccer team wins a championship and everyone gets a trophy, right? Things like that. And so it's interesting when sometimes you win a prize. And sometimes the prize doesn't have to be a lot of money or anything big. It can just be feeling proud of yourself and your accomplishment. But I guess the point of our discussion here is that there are different kinds of prizes. And we get to that in the title of this story where they say these scientists are winning awards, and then they mention $22 million. That's U.S. dollars. So these are big money awards, but they also win star status. So you get to be a hero, the winner, and you win a big prize. Sounds like an interesting idea. Have either of you ever won money?
I don't think so.
So
money
sad.
is a part of an award.
So sad.
Well, kind of, actually. So there's been a number, it's not exactly the same, but there's been a number of scholarships where the applications have been very, very competitive, where because I won the application process, I got the scholarship.
That was exactly what I thought of. And usually we don't consider scholarships to be really the same sort of thing, but I think that is the closest thing here to this idea of winning money for your academic performance, winning a scholarship, right? So there's all kinds of different ways people can do this. Today we're going to specifically talk about a thing called the Breakthrough Prize Awards, which is a type of award that rewards scientists. Let's find out a little bit more about them by doing our first reading together. Now, listeners, you can join me today on page 28 of your June Advanced Magazine. We're going to be looking at the lesson for June 15th, and we're going to read in the first column together now.
Breakthrough Prize awards scientists $22 million and star status. Lights, camera, science. In a scene out of Hollywood, researchers and celebrities gathered in an ornately choreographed fete in a NASA Ames hangar in early November 2018 to celebrate $22 million in prizes for discoveries in math, physics, and the life sciences. The winners of the Breakthrough Prize included some of the top thinkers in their fields. Their discoveries include high-resolution imaging technologies, a new class of drugs, chromosomal disease, innovations in cryptography, and a new type of electrical conducting materials. The prizes are among the biggest payouts in science. Conceived by theoretical physicist and entrepreneur Yuri Milner, the Breakthrough Prize Foundation aims to create a cultural shift. If scientists are toasted like celebrities, they'll win greater public attention. Brainiacs were celebrated in a self-consciously glittery, grand, and prestigious event, hosted by actor Pierce Brosnan, where they rubbed shoulders with movie stars and tech titans. Since the inception of the Breakthrough Prize in 2012, more than $200 million has been awarded to honor critical research.
Now, our article today starts with this phrase. They've written it here like 3 one-word sentences. It says lights, camera, science. And that's actually a play on a term or a saying that people use a lot when they're talking about the movie business, right? Josh, what is the phrase usually?
Usually we would see lights, camera, action.
Yeah, and the idea, of course, is those are the things that a director says when they are starting the filming of a movie. You know, lights means get the lights ready. Camera, make sure the camera's ready. Action, start acting, right? But here they've changed that word action to science. And the reason for that is what, David?
The reason for that is because they're blending together the Hollywood glamour with the scientific community by hosting this big award show for these different scientists.
Now, I'll be honest, when I first saw this, I thought, well, don't we already have the Nobel Prize? The Nobel Prize, of course, is, that big famous award that people win for, doing well in different fields, right? There's one for literature, there's one for different scientific things, right? Don't we already have that? Why is this different?
Well, because the Nobel Prize isn't nearly flashy enough.
Oh, yeah. It's not as Hollywood.
Yeah, it's not as Hollywood. And that seems to be part of the idea with these researchers and celebrities who are gathered in an ornately choreographed feat in the NASA Ames hangar.
Now, that is an interesting word you just used there. I would have said FET. What do you say, Josh, for F-E-T-E?
I would have also said fit.
Now, this is going to be one of those words that's tough for many English speakers because I believe it's a French word.
It is a French word.
Right.
So it's not always pronounced with a French pronunciation.
But if you're really good at saying it, you might want to add a little French to it. Basically, it means party.
Yeah.
Right? A fancy party.
Fancy
That's the
party,
idea.
maybe even a fancy outdoor party, but certainly fancy party.
There you go. But this fete, this party, has been ornately choreographed. Now, ornately means like lots of detail and ornament, right? Decoration, well decorated. But choreographed. What is something that is choreographed?
Normally you would think of a dance, and especially a group dance or where there's more than one dancer. So the choreographer is the person who creates the movements that the dancer is supposed to take and then also teaches the dancers to be able to make those movements in a way where the timing works out very well.
Okay, so when we're talking about a choreographed party here, we're probably not talking about dancing in this instance. Instead, we're talking about people getting on stage at the right time and giving their speech for exactly 1 minute and then getting off stage quickly and then someone else getting on stage. So basically like a theater performance, a well-timed, well-run theater show. And that's basically how they've run this party. Now, they've done it in an old, now this is a word I never pronounce right. I always say Nassau, but you guys say NASA, right?
It's NASA.
It's NASA.
It's NASA.
Yeah.
I like that you said it with so much confidence. But nonetheless, this old space organization hangar. Now, a hangar, of course, is a place where you keep aircraft, or maybe in this case, spacecraft. But this all happened in November. And as a part of this, they were celebrating these prizes, a lot of money, $22 million, that was being awarded to people for discoveries in different areas of science. They say here math, physics, and the life sciences. So the prize, again, it's called the Breakthrough Prize. And they tell us in the next section that some of the winners were top thinkers in their fields. So these are people who are being awarded for real excellence in their research and the things they have been discovering. They go on to tell us what some of these areas where there were awards are. Give me some insight into those. What are some of these awards for?
Well, they're for things like high-resolution imaging technologies.
What exactly is that?
That is, when I hear that, I think about like when people are doing research on things that are too small for the eye to see, right? They might use technology that can create very high resolution, very clear pictures of kind of like molecules and atoms and stuff so that we can get a better idea of what's happening down at that level.
So making pictures clearer. What's another one there, Josh?
Well, new class of drugs.
Now, does that mean a new drug? What do they mean by a class of drugs?
So a new type or new category of drugs.
Okay. Chromosomal disease. That's genetics, right? Somebody who's doing research on disease that people have in their genes. Innovations in, help me with this word here, David, cryptography.
Yeah, cryptography.
What is cryptography?
So cryptography has to do with, it usually has to do with security is what
Yeah.
we think of when we think about cryptography. It
Like
has
secret codes.
secret codes,
Right?
right? Yeah.
So in this case, it's probably things like keeping data on your cell phone safe or something like that,
Something
right?
like that. Mhm.
Because we use cryptography to keep all kinds of information safe. And then a new type of electrical conducting material. So material engineering. Wonderful stuff. Now, it tells us that these prizes are among the biggest payouts in science. And it goes on to give us a little bit of the story about where these prizes come from, the whole idea of these awards. Josh, can you tell us about that?
Well, so here it was conceived by a theoretical physicist, an entrepreneur, Yuri Milner, and the Breakthrough Prize Foundation aims to create a cultural shift. If scientists are toasted like celebrities, they'll win greater public attention.
Okay. Why on earth would you want to turn your scientists into rock stars?
There's a couple good answers to that question, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Give them to me.
It's to encourage more people to go into science.
Yeah, I think that's,
That's the main answer.
there might be a couple good answers, but that is really the big one because, of course, in Western countries, we have a lot of people going to university and very few of them studying what they call the STEM fields. STEM just means S for science, T for technology, E for engineering, and M for math. And so compared to all of the other things people are studying, there aren't enough STEM graduates coming out of universities. And the result of that is that things like innovation and tech companies have a difficult time finding sufficient staff to do research and come up with these new ideas and technologies. And so we have this project here. We want the idea of going into the sciences to be more attractive to younger people. And that's really this idea, right? They go on to use this term brainiacs. What is a brainiac?
A brainiac is it's kind of a humorous word that we use for someone who is super smart.
Okay. Now, does it have to be a scientist?
No, it doesn't. A brainiac does not have to be a scientist, although usually it would refer to someone who is, a math person or an inventor or something like that. Usually it refers to those.
Traditionally, it's kind of like the word nerd or geek, right? We use it to describe people who are really smart. And I guess in the stereotype, people would say these people are usually good at science and math, things like that, right? Okay, so brainiacs, people who were really smart and good at these things, are celebrated, and they describe it as a self-consciously glittery, grand, and prestigious event. Now, glittery, okay, glitter, sparkling. What do they mean by self-consciously glittery?
It means that they were very aware of how grand they wanted to make this.
They made it glittery on purpose.
Exactly. Right.
So they designed it to be as grand and fancy as possible. And it was hosted by a famous actor, Pierce Brosnan. What is he most famous for?
Well, he's done a lot of action movies, but probably one of the most famous roles he's played is James Bond,
Yeah.
007.
So he was 007 for a long time, right? And so the event was hosted by 007 himself. And then these brainiacs, these scientists, rubbed shoulders with movie stars and tech titans. Now, this prize, it's not actually that old, right, David? How long has it been around?
It seems like it's been around just since 2012.
Okay, but they've given out a lot of money in that time, right?
Yeah.
More than $200 million. Interesting stuff. Well, I'm wondering who exactly is winning these prizes. And fortunately, in our second reading, we go on to find out about who some of the winners are and what they have done. So let's do our second reading together, listeners. You can find that at the bottom of the left-hand column on page 28 of your magazine. And we're going to continue on over to the right column and through to the end of the lesson. Let's do that reading now together.
Winners in Life Sciences. C. Frank Bennett and Adrian R. Craner of Ionis Pharmaceuticals and Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, respectively, for the development of a therapy for children with the neurodegenerative disease spinal muscular atrophy, a rare but devastating disease. Angelica Amen of Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Howard Hughes Medical Institute for determining the consequences of an abnormal chromosome number, a disorder called aneuploidy. Xiaowei Zhuang of Harvard University and Howard Hughes Medical Institute, who discovered hidden structures in cells by developing super-resolution imaging, a method that transcends the limits of light microscopy. Zhijian James Chun of University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center and Howard Hughes Medical Institute, who learned how DNA triggers immune and autoimmune responses from the interior of a cell. Winner in fundamental physics. Charles Kane and Eugene Moulet of the University of Pennsylvania for new ideas about topology and symmetry in physics, leading to the prediction of a new class of materials that conduct electricity only on their surface.
Now, one of the things I found most interesting in reading through that list of winners is this idea that these breakthrough prizes don't only go to academics, it seems. I'm kind of used to this idea of people winning prizes being university professors at famous universities. But here we have a lot of people who seem to be working at research institutes that might be connected with universities, but might also be connected with companies involved in technology and things like that. And I thought that was an interesting idea because it kind of notes that a lot of interesting innovation and research is actually done by companies in the private sector, not only by big public research universities. And I suppose that's a bit of a change from the way things were in the past, but nonetheless something very interesting. Dave, can you tell us about the first winner in our list here?
Yeah, well, the first winner actually fits the description that you just gave. We have C. Frank Bennett and Adrian R. Craner from a place called Ionis Pharmaceuticals and Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory. So again, people are doing research within the context of a company as opposed to a university, it seems here. And they were winners for their development of a therapy for children with the neurodegenerative disease, spinal muscular atrophy. So neurodegenerative is a very long word. This just basically means your nerves and your brain being damaged or breaking down gradually.
The root word there is degenerate, which means sort of gradually get worse, gradually break down. And so neuro talks about nerves, like you say, your brain or your nervous system. So neurodegenerative just means basically slowly there's going to be trouble with the nerves that comes on. And they've developed a therapy for children who suffer with this, so a way to help those people out. Josh, tell us about the second prize.
Well, the second prize here was for Angelica Amon of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Howard Hughes Medical Institute for determining the consequences of an abnormal chromosome number, which is here it's a special disorder that describes when people don't have the correct number of chromosomes.
Okay, so normally people would have 23 sets of chromosomes, and so this would either mean they don't have
maybe one too
46,
many or one too, yeah, exactly.
They have 23 or partial sets or something like that. And this is a winner from an academic institution because, of course, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology is a famous university. Our third winner is another university winner who's discovered hidden structures in cells by developing super-resolution imaging. And that's it sounds to me like that's what you were talking about earlier, David, when you were talking about high-resolution imaging. So they've basically developed a means of like seeing hidden structures in cells, getting resolutions up to that level. They say here it's a method that transcends the limits of light microscopy, meaning that this allows you to see much more clearly and in much more detail than just using a microscope would. The normal microscope you use in science class is called a light microscope. So a big improvement on that. Josh, tell us about the next one.
So the next one is Zhuzhen James of University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center and Howard Hughes Medical Institute, who learned how DNA triggers immune and autoimmune responses from the interior of a cell.
Those are the winners from life sciences. That's basically like biology and medicine. We see some things in genetics. We see some things in terms of methods. Some things are maybe pharmaceutical or just different ways to treat different diseases. And then we come to a section called Winner in Fundamental Physics. And this is a person who's won something in the area of physics. Now, I saved this one for you, David, because I know that physics is your favorite science.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us about this one.
So here we have Mr. Charles Kane and Eugene Millay of the University of Pennsylvania, which is in the city I used to live in, Philadelphia. And they won the award for new ideas about topology and symmetry in physics, which has led to the prediction of a new class of materials that conduct electricity only on their surface.
Okay, so materials engineering, that's always kind of an interesting thing. It leads to all kinds of commercial products often.
Yeah, for sure.
Big improvements with different things like that. So we have these awards. The Breakthrough Prize Awards, handing out big prizes to scientists and really honoring them for the hard work they've done, often work that takes many, many years, even a whole career to do. And so
until they have a scientific breakthrough, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so we have a good thing here. That brings us to the end of our newsworthy clips for the month of June. We hope you'll join us again for our next program. But until then, this is Simon.
And this is Josh.
And this is Dave.
Saying goodbye.
See you
Bye.
later.